in the farthest edge of the Phyrexia expanse, where stars were old and space was silent, a routine patrol ship of the Varnake Empire moved through the darkness near a dead star named Zarn 12, a place forgotten by most charts and avoided by merchant fleets. Captain Threx, a cold and calculated officer of the Varnake fleet, sat in his command chair, bored by the routine scan cycle, until his sensor officer picked up an unknown metallic signature drifting near the collapsed star's gravity field. Curious and cautious, he ordered a passive scan, thinking it would just be some rogue mining vessel or ancient satellite drifting aimlessly through space. But as the ship's long-range scanners locked on, things started going wrong. The sensor grid, built with the latest Varnake technology, began to flicker and then overheat, alarms chiming as the systems attempted to interpret the strange data. The onboard AI, a high-level sentient interface called VEX9, immediately halted. The scan, warning of internal system risk due to thermal buildup and unclassified resonance feedback. On the bridge, silence fell as the crew stared at the frozen image on the screen, an object too large to be a freighter, too armored to be civilian, yet with no known energy readings or ID tags. It looked like a warship, but its shape was strange sleek, but heavy, as if it was built to survive impacts, not just avoid them. The outer shell appeared old, almost scarred, yet untouched by decay or damage, like a relic pulled from deep time and placed into the void to be found. The strange part wasn't the vessel itself, but what the scan couldn't see. There were layers that no sensor could penetrate, regions of the ship's body that returned no data at all, not even a surface temperature. It was as if the ship refused to exist in those sections. The engineers on board called it impossible. The AI could only offer a warning: non-compliant material. Scan terminated to protect ship integrity. Threx, now uneasy, ordered all systems to red alert. But the mysterious vessel made no move, no sign of life or hostility, just floated quietly as if it were waiting. Even without lights or signals, its presence felt heavy, almost intentional, as if it knew it was being watched. Not wanting to take risks, Threx sent the report up the chain with full sensor logs, encrypted and flagged as high priority. Within hours, the Varnake Empire's High Command received the report, and within a day, it had spread through black channels across the Galactic Council. Most dismissed it at first as another ghost ship or sensor glitch, until the logs were analyzed by Council archivists who saw something chilling in the data. The alloy structure resembled nothing modern, yet a few old database entries came up under a forbidden file series marked as pre-Zenith era. There, deep in the Council's ancient threat archive, was a single entry: Terran Construct, class unknown, status extinct. The last confirmed human vessel had been seen over 300 years ago, before humanity vanished during the Zenith Purge, when they refused to bow to the galactic rules and chose silence over submission. At the time, most thought they had died off or destroyed themselves. But now, this ship, this unmarked relic, stood as a question no one wanted to ask. Had the humans survived in the dark, repairing in silence? Had they left behind ships like this, hidden and watching? The fear spread not because of what the ship did, but because it did nothing. It just waited, cloaked in mystery, immune to scans, and untouched by time. If it was truly human, then it meant humanity had not only survived extinction, but advanced beyond what anyone imagined. The ship, now code-named Obsidian Echo, became the center of a quiet emergency. Council fleets were told to avoid Zarn 12. Spies were sent to learn more. The ancient warning passed down through old war records was whispered again in secret. Chambers of power. If you see the Terran ship, do not provoke it. If it does not fire, do not fire first. Captain Threx, now confined to a secure location for questioning. claimed one final thing before disappearing into the Council's intelligence wing. He swore that just before the scan crashed, he saw a line of text flash across his console in a language long forbidden. It read, "Observation successful. Continue silence." No one could confirm it, and the scan logs contained no trace of that message, but the Council took no chances. Somewhere in the deep, the silence of space had been broken not by a voice, but by a presence, and across hundreds of worlds, those who understood the meaning of what floated near Zarn 12 felt a cold shiver. The humans had vanished, but perhaps they had only been waiting for the galaxy to forget, and now, with one broken scan, they were remembered again. For over 300 years, the galaxy had believed that humans were gone forever, erased during the Zenith Purge, a time when the Galactic Council forced every rising species to either join their order or be silenced. The humans had refused, choosing to disappear rather than kneel, and when they vanished without leaving a trail, many assumed they had been destroyed or faded into extinction somewhere in deep space. The Council's records marked them as unstable, too emotional, and too dangerous to be trusted with high technology. But now, with the sudden appearance of the silent warship near the dead star Zarn 12, old fears came rushing back. The ship's design didn't match anything modern. Its metal alloys were unfamiliar, layered with something that confused every scan. No engines were active, no signals were sent, and yet it remained fully intact, drifting with purpose as though it had simply paused mid-mission. On Thal Prime, Admiral Kyrax of the Thal Coalition sat in a private chamber with Council intelligence, reviewing the sensor logs sent by the Varnak Empire. Unlike most Council members who dismissed the report as a trick or malfunction, Kyrax had studied old war history, especially the forgotten files of Terran warfare. He recognized the patterns, the silent power behind the ship's shape, and the way it was built not to show strength, but to hide it. Without waiting for full approval, he assembled a small elite task force, cloaked their ships, and moved quietly toward Zarn 12. His goal was simple: approach, observe, and if possible, board. His ships arrived 2 days later, remaining hidden in the shadows of the broken asteroid belt that orbited the dead star. They deployed stealth drones, each built to hack, scan, and breach without alerting hostile systems. The team moved slowly, cautiously, watching every signal, measuring every pulse. At first, the ship seemed dead, unmoving, as it had for days. But as the first drone touched the hull, barely a contact, everything changed. Without warning, the warship powered on, not with lights or sound, but with silent activation. Entire sections of the hull began to shift slightly, revealing inner layers of armor that had been folded beneath. The ship's design reshaped itself like a beast stretching its limbs. A pulse came through the void, bouncing off every nearby scanner. In an ancient, nearly forgotten code, the Thal team's AI took a moment, then translated it. "Do not board. This is your only warning." Kyrax froze. The message was in old Terran Morse, a form of communication the Council hadn't used in centuries. The crew stood silent as the beacon repeated its short message again, once, then went quiet. No weapons activated, no shields appeared, but the tension grew. Kyrax made the hard choice to withdraw the drones, but it was too late. The ship now had them mapped. One of the drones, the smallest one, was caught in a magnetic grip it couldn't escape from, pulled into a small docking port that appeared out of nowhere. Cameras inside the drone sent back visuals of a dark interior, perfectly clean, with no dust, no debris, and walls made of layered composite unknown to their scientists. Then the feed went black. The rest of the drones fled back to the Thal ships, which began slow retreat maneuvers. Kyrax ordered full blackout mode. No transmissions, no motion, just passive drifting away. Inside his ship, he reviewed the final frames from the lost drone, watching as the inner walls of the human vessel opened like mechanical flowers, revealing machinery that no one could explain, parts that moved without sound, lights that pulsed. From within the metal, and strange inscriptions along the walls, in a language that looked Terran, but evolved. It was clear that whoever built the ship had not only survived the Zenith Purge, but had grown far beyond anything the Council could understand. Council scholars, now alerted, dug into Forbidden's archives, looking for anything connected to this class of vessel. A name surfaced from a deep red file, locked behind security levels not touched in centuries. It read, Project Revenant. Status: terminated. Origin: Earth Command, final generation. The meaning was unclear, but the word revenant translated to something that returns from the dead. Fear started to grow, not because the ship attacked, but because it didn't need to. It simply existed, and that was enough. Council debates grew tense. Some called for the ship to be destroyed before others could see it. Others feared that an attack would wake something much worse. Meanwhile, Kyrax sat alone in his command chamber, staring at the stars, thinking about the warning the calm, MEASURED words of a civilization long thought extinct. He wondered what kind of mind had written that message, and why it was so confident. Ships could be destroyed, scanners could be fooled, but warnings like that only came from those who held a power they didn't need to show. Deep in his thoughts, he realized something chilling. If this warship was just one, how many others were out there, watching, waiting, and deciding whether the galaxy deserved to know the truth about what happened to humanity? Across the stars, others were asking the same question, but no one had answers yet. The humans had once been feared. Now they were returning not as conquerors, but as reminders that silence is not always weakness, and what is forgotten is not always gone, despite the warnings pulsing from the strange Terran warship, Admiral. Kyrax made a choice that would change everything. He sent in a boarding team, carefully selected and equipped with the best stealth and containment gear the Thal Coalition had to offer. Their orders were simple: enter the vessel, gather data, and exit quickly. A stealth pod detached from the main fleet and drifted silently toward the ship, which remained unmoving, its surface calm but ominous, like an ancient creature that had not yet opened its eyes. The boarding team reached a side hangar using a low-energy cutter, expecting resistance or at least some internal defense systems, but none activated. Inside, they found pristine corridors, as if the ship had just been built yesterday, with polished floors, clean air, and full artificial gravity. The walls were made of thick materials that resisted both scans and samples, far denser than even dreadnought armor. Every inch of the ship looked engineered with purpose, minimalistic but efficient, as though it was designed for survival in the harshest corners of space. The deeper they moved, the more silent it became, not because the ship lacked sound, but because it absorbed it. Their steps were muffled, their communications faint, and even the pulse of their own suits felt distant, like the ship itself was swallowing all vibration. Eventually, they reached a massive chamber located in the center of the vessel, which their instruments identified as a cryovault. Inside stood a single pod, tall and sealed, surrounded by unknown machinery humming quietly, almost in rhythm with the heartbeat of the ship. Through the frost-covered glass, they saw a human, tall, armored, still breathing in slow, deep cycles. His face was calm, almost peaceful, though the expression carried something sharp beneath the surface. Ignoring the earlier warning, the lead engineer activated a basic scan to read the pod's function, and the moment the beam touched the surface, the entire ship responded in an instant. Lights along the corridor burst to life in a cascading wave of soft blue. Hidden panels opened across the ship's outer hull, revealing dormant weapons that began to rotate and lock onto every foreign ship in the area. The warship systems, once in standby, surged to full power in seconds faster than any known ship could respond. The boarding team panicked, sealing the chamber, but the cryopod was already reacting. Its systems hissed, unlocking layers of thermal locks and awakening the figure inside. The ship's AI voice echoed through the corridors, not loud, but clear, deep, and calm. Awakening protocol initiated. Commander Reyes, environmental balance achieved. Threats identified. Inside the chamber, the human's eyes opened slowly, blinking against the soft light. He coughed, taking his first breath in centuries, then sat up with unnatural ease, as though waking from a short nap. The alien stepped back, unsure whether to speak or run. Reyes looked around, his eyes scanning. Their faces, their gear, their posture. He studied their uniforms and insignia silently, then asked in perfect galactic common, his voice quiet but steady, "How many years has it been since Earth fell?" The team leader, stunned, tried to answer, but hesitated, not knowing the full truth. Before anyone could speak, the ship's AI interrupted again. "Commander Reyes, systems operational. External targets locked. Shall I engage?" A human stood up, his movements smooth and practiced, showing no signs of weakness. He placed one hand on the pod's edge and without looking back answered coldly, "Only if they fire first." Outside, the fleets watching the scene unfold from orbit detected the change instantly. The Terran ship's energy signature had spiked. Every weapon port had come online, and targeting arrays were now tracking every ship in the task force. Yet the warship did not fire. It simply waited, just like its commander. Inside, Reyes slowly walked toward the stunned boarders, observing them without fear. "You don't look like Varnak," he said. "And you're not Council. What are you?" The team leader swallowed and replied, "We are Thal, from the Coalition." Reyes nodded once. "I see. So the galaxy moved on without us. They thought we were gone." His voice wasn't angry, just thoughtful, like someone putting together pieces of a forgotten puzzle. "And now you're afraid of what you don't understand." The AI spoke. Again, all systems green. Additional Revenant-class units responding to awakening signal. Estimated arrival, 13 hours. The Thal team looked at one another in confusion. "Revenant class?" the lead engineer asked. Reyes looked back and gave a slight smile. "You scanned one ship," he said. "That was your mistake. You should have left it alone." Before they could respond, he raised a hand and pressed something on his wristband. A soft pulse radiated through the ship, and somewhere deep within, a series of dormant modules began to activate. The walls shimmered slightly, and the air grew colder, as though the ship was shifting into something far more dangerous. "Go back to your admiral," Reyes said, now fully suited, his armor locking into place with smooth, precise clicks. "Tell him we didn't die. We just went silent." Then he turned toward the dark corridor and walked away without another word, the lights dimming behind him with each step. The Thal team received immediate orders to evacuate. Their pod detached and raced back to the fleet. Kyrax watched from his flagship, his expression heavy with realization. The Revenant had awakened, and now the galaxy would have to face what? It tried to forget. A human warship no one could defeat, and a commander who waited centuries to return God, as word of the awakening spread like fire across the stars. More fleets from different factions arrived near the dead star Zarn 12, drawn not only by fear, but also by curiosity and desperation. Some came with peace envoys, carrying banners and messages of diplomacy, hoping to open a dialogue with the long-lost species. Others came armed, with weapons charged and fingers ready on their triggers, believing that preemptive action might prevent a galactic threat from fully rising. Commander Reyes remained aboard the Revenant, calm and quiet, standing at the ship's observation deck as sensor feeds flowed across the air before him. He studied them without emotion fleet positions, communication intercepts, energy spikes in nearby systems, and then turned to the central console, where the ship's logs, sealed for centuries, were finally decrypted. The truth unraveled slowly, like old wounds being reopened. Earth had not been destroyed during the Zenith Purge. It had chosen exile. When the Galactic Council had presented its ultimatum: surrender and integrate or face annihilation, humanity had already made its decision. Using deep space decoys, signal jammers, and false wreckage fields, they faked their own extinction, retreating beyond mapped space and scattering their best minds across hidden colonies. Project Revenant was born from that strategy: a fleet of sleeper warships, each containing one commander, programmed to remain silent, drift across deep sectors, and only awaken if galactic forces ever returned to the place where humanity was last seen. The Revenant was just one of many. As Reyes stood silently, the ship's AI displayed dozens of similar energy signatures blinking to life across the galaxy ships buried under moons, parked inside asteroid cores, or hidden behind radiation belts. Their activation codes had been triggered by a single signal, the scan from Zarn 12 that reached Reyes' ship. Now the others were waking too, each built with enough power to cripple a starport or level a moon. Reyes didn't smile, didn't flinch. He simply watched. The Council, now fully aware of what was happening, went into chaos. Emergency meetings were called. Arguments broke out across sectors. Some leaders screamed for action. Others demanded restraint. No one had expected humanity to return, and certainly not like this: quiet, prepared, and watching. The Thal Coalition, feeling responsible, sent another envoy to the Revenant. This time, they brought no soldiers, only diplomats, led by a calm speaker named Senator Velt. Reyes agreed to meet, standing tall in his black Terran command armor, his expression unreadable as the envoy was escorted aboard. They sat in a quiet chamber near the central core. No guards, no weapons drawn, just silence and tension thick as fog. Senator began with apologies and explanations, speaking of peace, unity, misunderstanding, and hope for cooperation. Reyes listened, arms folded, eyes steady. When the envoy finally asked what humanity wanted, Reyes spoke with a voice that held no anger, just truth. "We wanted peace," he said. "You forced silence. You won't like what comes after." He stood, turned toward the large transparent wall that showed the stars beyond, and pointed toward 3 faint signals in the distance: newly awakened human vessels, Revenant class like his own, moving slowly toward key star systems. "We waited. You forgot. And now we are remembered." Back on Council worlds, panic rose. Civilian traffic was halted. Defense grids were placed on high alert. Some feared invasion. Others feared retaliation. But none truly understood what humanity planned, because no demands were made. No threats. No ultimatums. Just ships, dozens of them, coming out of deep silence, like ghosts returning to a battlefield long abandoned. On a forgotten moon near the edge of the Yulin Drift, another human vessel awoke. Its commander, a woman named Aria Holt, stepped out of cryo, already in sync with Reyes through the fleet's old communication array. Across sectors, the dormant network built long ago by Terran engineers came alive. Silent pulses traveled faster. Then light, invisible to most scanners, reconnecting ships, commanders, and databases across the stars. The silent fleet was real, and it was moving. Back aboard the Revenant, Reyes returned to the command platform and initiated a system-wide transmission. Just a simple message broadcast across all known frequencies. It wasn't long. It didn't carry threats or demands. Just a calm voice. Human, steady, speaking to a galaxy that had forgotten it existed. We are not here for war, but we will not be silenced again. If you fear us, it is because of your own history. We remember it too. Watch carefully. How you choose to act next will shape what comes after. Then the message ended, and the transmission went dark. Across alien worlds, leaders met in secret. Soldiers stood ready, and civilians stared into the sky, wondering what it meant that humanity had returned not with noise, but with silence so heavy it echoed in every corner of known space. The dark hull of the Revenant moved silently across the stars, gliding past broken moons and abandoned relay stations. As it approached the central trade axis, the beating heart of commerce and communication for half the galaxy, billions watched from screens, from towers, from bunkers buried under planets, each world frozen in silence, unsure of what the lone Terran warship intended to do. It didn't fire, didn't raise shields, didn't broadcast a threat. Instead, it simply slowed and held position above the traffic corridor, cutting through major trade routes like a knife through threads. And then something even more unexpected happened. Commander Reyes opened a full system-wide transmission. Across thousands of worlds, on every major network, every screen flickered and turned black before fading into the face of a man no one recognized human, calm, with sharp eyes that seemed to look at every viewer directly. His voice was steady, not loud, but clear enough to silence entire cities. "This is Commander Reyes of the Terran Sleeper Fleet," he said. "We were not destroyed. We were not defeated. After the Zenith Purge, Earth chose exile. We hid not to conquer, but to survive." The galaxy listened, even those who didn't want to. He continued without emotion, just truth. "The Council gave us a choice: submit or vanish. We chose. Silence. We left, and we waited. Now your scan woke us. And we remember." Behind him, as if on cue, space shimmered, and in synchronized timing, dozens of Revenant-class ships decloaked across the sector. They appeared without warning in orbit of major relay hubs, near trade rings, beside military outposts, not firing, not moving, just hovering. The positioning was precise, surgical, and terrifying in its implication. They didn't need to shoot. Their mere presence halted fleets, shut down shipping lanes, and pushed entire defense networks into full alert. Reyes's voice spoke again. "This is not a threat. It is a warning. We do not seek revenge, but we will not go quiet again. We are here. We were always here. And we will decide our future now, not you." The screen went black. No demands were made. No lists delivered. The message was simple: humanity had returned, and they were no longer alone. Inside the Council chambers, chaos erupted. Some delegates shouted for peace talks. Others demanded immediate retaliation. Fear gripped their hearts, not because of what the humans said, but because of what they didn't say. The power behind those ships was unknown, but they had awakened without effort and moved with absolute coordination. That kind of silence wasn't luck, it was design. The Terran commanders, long thought extinct, had not just survived in exile. They had built something in the shadows, something that now stood between every major power and their next move. Armies were placed on standby, fleets prepared for combat. But no order was given to fire. No one wanted to be the first to test what humanity had become. Trade halted across the axis. Diplomats sent encrypted messages to Reyes, hoping for talks, treaties, terms, anything. But Reyes didn't respond right away. He simply stood aboard the Revenant, watching the stars, letting the weight of the moment settle across the galaxy like a storm cloud refusing to break. On backwater planets, children whispered the name Earth for the first time in generations. On advanced worlds, Scientists rushed to decode the signals bouncing between the human ships. On military stations, officers held their breath every time one of the Terran vessels moved even a fraction of a degree. And in quiet corners of space, other Revenant-class ships began to arrive, slowly, silently, taking positions in sectors once ruled by arrogance and certainty. What scared the galaxy wasn't just the return of a forgotten species, it was the way they returned. Not angry, not reckless, just prepared, controlled, like giants waking from deep sleep, not roaring, but watching, waiting. One by one, news outlets, black channels, and even pirate feeds began repeating a phrase, not official, but whispered across systems like an ancient omen. One scan was enough. We don't want to see the second. It became a warning and a truth. No one knew what the Revenant ships could do if provoked, but no one wanted to find out. On Earth far beyond the eyes of the Council lights began to shine again. Old command. Centers lit up, signal towers reconnected, and in the sky above the Terran homeworld, new ships rose into orbit. Humanity was no longer hiding. They had watched long enough. Now, the galaxy would have to decide how to live in a future where Earth was no longer silent and the giants had returned.